Nova Serra was a beautiful place. Green fields stretched under an orange sky. Rivers of clear water flowed through valleys filled with flowers that smelled like honey. 12,000 humans called this planet home. They had built their colony far from Earth, on the edge of known space, where the stars were still wild and unnamed. The colony had been there for 30 years. Families grew. Children were born. Life was simple and good. The people of Nova Serra were farmers and teachers and doctors. They knew nothing of war. They wanted nothing of war. Captain Tejo stood on the hill overlooking the education complex every morning. It was his habit. He was a military man, sent here to protect these peaceful people, but there was never anything to protect them from. The biggest problem he faced was children sneaking into the fruit orchards after dark. The education complex was a large building made of white stone. Inside, 2,300 children learned and played. Their laughter could be heard across the fields. Tejo often smiled when he heard it. It reminded him of his own childhood on Earth, long ago. Dr. Yuna ran the medical center near the complex. She was a small woman with kind eyes and steady hands. She had delivered half the children in the colony. She knew every family, every face, every name. When children scraped their knees or caught a cold, they came to Dr. Yuna. She always had medicine and a warm smile. Hana was the youngest teacher in the complex. She was only 24 years old, but the children loved her more than anyone. She taught them songs and stories. She took them on walks through the synthetic gardens. She held their hands when they were scared, and wiped their tears when they cried. The children called her Teacher Hana, and she called each of them her little stars. Superintendent Do-hyun managed the education complex. He was an old man, with white hair and a gentle voice. He had been a teacher himself for 40 years, before becoming superintendent. Every child who passed through his school left knowing how to read, write, and dream of the future. That morning was like every other morning. The sun rose over the hills. The children walked to school, carrying their bags and talking about their homework. Parents waved goodbye from their doorsteps. Coffee brewed in the cafeteria. Teachers prepared their lessons. Tejo watched from his hill, drinking his morning tea. Then the sky turned dark. At first, Tejo thought it was a cloud. But clouds did not move that fast. Clouds did not have sharp edges. Clouds did not block out the sun like a hand covering a candle. Ships. Hundreds of ships. They came from beyond the atmosphere, descending like a swarm of black insects. Tejo dropped his tea. The cup shattered on the rocks. He ran. The Velar Empire had been watching humanity for decades. They were an insectoid species, ancient and proud. They had ruled their part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They believed themselves superior to all other life forms. Mammals, especially humans, were beneath them. Weak, emotional, pathetic. But humans were spreading too fast. Their colonies were appearing everywhere. Their population was growing. The Velar High Council decided that humanity needed to be taught a lesson they would never forget. The Velar strategists studied humans for years. They learned that humans cared about their children more than anything else, more than money, more than power, more than their own lives. The strategists smiled their clicking smiles. They knew exactly where to strike. Nova Serra had no real defenses. A few patrol ships, a small garrison. Nothing that could stop a fleet of 300 warships. Tejo screamed into his communicator as he ran toward the education complex. He called for help. He called for backup. He called for anyone who could hear him. But help was hours away. The nearest military base was in another star system. The Velar ships ignored the military buildings. They flew past the garrison without firing a single shot. They went straight for the education complex. Hana was teaching her class when the first explosion hit. The windows shattered. Children screamed. Smoke filled the room. Hana grabbed as many children as she could and ran for the emergency shelter. But there was no shelter strong enough for what was coming. Dr. Yuna heard the explosions from her medical center. She ran outside and saw fire falling from the sky. She saw the white stone of the education complex crumbling. She saw children running, crying, dying. She ran toward them, not away. Do-hyun was in his office when the ceiling collapsed. He never made it out. The attack lasted only 20 minutes. 20 minutes to destroy everything. 20 minutes to end thousands of young lives. 20 minutes to change the galaxy forever. When the Velar ships finally left, they took 412 children with them. Prisoners, hostages, trophies. They left behind 1,847 small bodies. Taeho reached the complex too late. He walked through the ruins, stepping over broken toys and burned books. He found Hana lying in the courtyard, her body covering 3 children. She was alive. They were not. She had tried to shield them with her own flesh. It was not enough. Dr. Yuna worked through the night. She treated burns and broken bones, and wounds that would never fully heal. She held the hands of dying children and whispered that everything would be okay, even though she knew it was a lie. By morning, her white coat was red with blood. The rescue ships arrived 12 hours later. Soldiers walked through the ruins with faces like stone. They had seen war before. They had seen death before. But they had never seen anything like this. A young soldier found a classroom still intact. The desks were arranged in neat rows. On the board, someone had written the day's lesson in careful letters. The soldier read the words and fell to his knees. The lesson was about Earth, about the blue planet far away, about the home all humans came from, about the place they would all return to someday. None of those children would ever see Earth now. Captain Taeho was the one who sent the message. His hands shook as he typed the words. The message was short. The message reached every human in the galaxy within hours. They killed our children. 12 billion humans received that message. 12 billion humans read those 4 words. 12 billion humans felt something break inside their hearts. And 12 billion humans felt something new rise from the broken pieces. Not grief, not fear, rage. Cold, quiet, patient rage. The kind of rage that builds empires and destroys worlds. The kind of rage that does not burn out. The kind of rage that waits. The galaxy did not understand what it had awakened. The Velar did not understand what they had done. They thought they had taught humanity a lesson about weakness. They were wrong. They had taught humanity a lesson about strength. And humanity was about to teach them a lesson about consequences. Earth had not known true unity for centuries. Nations argued. Corporations competed. Politicians fought over power and money and land. Humans were good at disagreeing with each other. It was one of their oldest traditions. But when the message from Nova Sera reached Earth, something changed. The arguments stopped. The competition ended. The fighting ceased. For the first time in 300 years, every human looked at each other and saw not a rival, but a brother. Not an enemy, but a sister. Not a stranger, but family. Because someone had killed their children. The United Human Federation Council met 3 days after the attack. The council chamber was a massive room beneath the mountains of what was once called Switzerland. 50 representatives sat in a circle, their faces lit by holographic screens showing the destruction of Nova Sera. Chancellor Minji sat at the center. She had white hair and wrinkled hands and eyes that had seen too much. She was a grandmother. Her own grandchildren lived on a colony not far from Nova Sera. When she received the news of the attack, she did not cry. She did not scream. She simply sat in silence for 1 hour, her hands folded in her lap. Then she called this meeting. Fleet Admiral Wu Jin stood before the council. He was a tall man, with a shaved head and a face that showed no emotion. He had commanded the human navy for 20 years. He had fought pirates and rebels and rogue colonies, but he had never faced anything like this. The Velar Empire, he said, his voice steady and cold. 340 star systems, 90 billion population. Their fleet outnumbers ours 3 to 1. Their technology is equal to ours in most areas, superior in some. The council members listened in silence. They attacked Nova Serra because they believe we are weak, Wu Jin continued. They believe that targeting our children will make us afraid. They believe we will beg for peace. They believe we will submit. He paused. His jaw tightened. They are wrong. Intelligence Director Sun Wu stepped forward. He was a thin man with glasses and a quiet voice. He led the Federation's intelligence services. He knew secrets that could destroy governments. He knew truths that could end empires. I have studied the Velar for 15 years, he said. They have a weakness. A fatal weakness. The council leaned forward. The Velar reproduce differently than most species. They have queens, special females who produce all the eggs for their entire race. Without the queens, no new Velar can be born. Without the queens, their species dies. He pressed a button. A holographic map appeared, showing Velar space. 17 worlds glowed red. These are the queen worlds, 17 planets where all Velar queens live and breed. Destroy these 17 worlds, and the Velar become extinct within 2 generations. No new children, no new soldiers, no future. The council chamber was silent. The weight of what Sun Wu was suggesting pressed down on everyone. Ambassador Nari stood. She was a young woman, only 40, but she had represented humanity in the Galactic Assembly for 10 years. She knew how other species thought. She knew how they would react. If we do this, she said carefully, the galaxy will condemn us. Other species will call us monsters. We will be feared and hated for 1,000 years. Chancellor Minji finally spoke. Her voice was soft, like snow falling on stone. Good. Everyone turned to look at her. Let them condemn us, she said. Let them fear us. Let them hate us. Let them remember what happens when someone touches our children. She stood slowly, her old bones aching, but her spirit burning. I have seen the images. I have heard the testimony of the survivors. The Velar did not attack our military. They did not attack our government. They did not attack our economy. They attacked our schools. They murdered our babies. They took our children as trophies. Her voice grew harder with each word. This was not an act of war. This was an act of evil. And evil must be answered, not with diplomacy, not with sanctions, not with protests. Evil must be answered with annihilation. She looked at each council member in turn. I am asking you to vote for the extinction of an entire species. I am asking you to become monsters in the eyes of the galaxy. I am asking you to carry this weight for the rest of your lives and for the rest of human history. She paused. But I am also asking you to make sure that no alien species ever dares to harm a human child again. I am asking you to protect every child who will ever be born under human stars. I am asking you to trade our reputation for their safety. She sat down. The choice is yours. The vote took less than 1 minute. 50 hands rose. 50 voices said yes. The decision was unanimous. Total war. Not for conquest. Not for resources. Not for power. For extinction. Admiral Wu Jin saluted the council. I will need 6 months to prepare. 6 months to build the weapons. 6 months to train the soldiers. 6 months to plan the campaigns. Chancellor Minji nodded. You have 6 months, not a day more. Wujin turned to leave, but Minji called out to him. Admiral. He stopped. When you destroy those worlds, I want you to broadcast a message. I want every species in this galaxy to hear it. I want them to understand why we did what we did. What message, Chancellor? Minji's eyes were cold and ancient, like stars that had burned for billions of years. Human children are not to be touched. Ever. The Velar forgot this lesson. Now they will teach it to the universe with their extinction. Wujin nodded. It will be done. He left the chamber. Behind him, the council sat in heavy silence. They had just sentenced 90 billion beings to death. They had just ended a species that had existed for millions of years. They had just become the villains of galactic history. And none of them regretted it. Because somewhere in the ruins of Nova Sera, parents were still searching for their children's bodies. Somewhere in a Velar prison, 400 human children were crying for their mothers. Somewhere in the vast cold of space, a species was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, or their numbers, or their intelligence. It was their love. And love, when wounded, becomes the most terrible weapon in the universe. The 6 months began. The countdown to extinction started. The galaxy continued spinning, unaware of what was coming. But the humans knew, and they were ready to burn worlds for their children. The factories of humanity had never worked so fast. On Mars, the great shipyards ran day and night. Sparks flew like rain. Metal screamed as it was bent into weapons of war. Workers slept in shifts, 4 hours at a time, then returned to their stations without complaint. On Earth, civilian factories converted to military production. Car manufacturers built tanks. Electronics companies built targeting systems. Toy factories built ammunition. No one protested, no one complained. Parents who had once built playthings for children now built missiles to avenge them. Recruitment centers across human space were flooded with volunteers. Old soldiers came out of retirement. Young students dropped out of universities. Factory workers left their jobs. Farmers left their fields. They all wanted the same thing. They all said the same words. I want to fight for the children. Commander Unji led the elite Ghost Division. She was 35 years old, with short black hair and scars on her face from a dozen battles. Her soldiers were the best of the best. They could land on any planet, kill any enemy, and disappear like smoke. They had never failed a mission. Now she had the most important mission of her career. The Velar are holding 412 human children on a prison station near their home world. Admiral Wujin told her, "We need them back before the war begins. Alive." Unji studied the holographic map. The prison station was heavily guarded. 100 Velar warships surrounded it. 10,000 soldiers defended it. Getting in would be hard. Getting out would be harder. "We'll need a distraction," she said. "You'll have one," Wujin replied. "The largest distraction in galactic history." 3 weeks later, Unji and her Ghost Division slipped through Velar space in ships designed to look like asteroids. They drifted past patrol routes. They hid in the shadows of gas giants. They waited for the signal. The signal came in the form of fire. 100 human warships appeared at the edge of Velar territory. They attacked a military outpost, destroying it in minutes. The Velar fleet scrambled to respond. Ships left the prison station to join the battle. The guards became distracted. Unji struck. Her soldiers cut through the station like a knife through paper. They moved in perfect silence, killing guards before they could raise alarms. They found the children in cells deep below the surface. The children were thin and pale and scared. Some of them had been experimented on. Some of them had been tortured. All of them had been broken. But they were alive. Yunji knelt before a young girl, maybe 15 years old. The girl's eyes were empty. Her arms were covered in scars. "What is your name?" Yunji asked softly. "Bora," the girl whispered. "My name is Bora." "We are taking you home, Bora. You are safe now." Bora looked at Unji with those empty eyes. "I want to kill them," she said. "I want to kill all of them." Unji understood. She had seen that look before, in mirrors. "Someday," she promised, "someday you will." The ghost division escaped with all 412 children. 17 soldiers died covering their retreat. Their names were added to the memorial. Back on Mars, Dr. Jinho completed his life's work. He was an old scientist, 70 years old, with hands that shook from age, but a mind that still burned with brilliance. He had spent his entire career building weapons, small weapons, medium weapons, large weapons. Now he had built the largest weapon in human history, the Star Hammer. It was a missile, but calling it a missile was like calling a hurricane a breeze. The Star Hammer could penetrate any planetary defense. It could drill through any shield, and when it reached the core of a planet, it would ignite a chain reaction that would turn the entire world into a ball of nuclear fire. One Star Hammer could kill a planet. Jinho had built 17. "These are not weapons," he said to Admiral Wu Jin when he delivered them. "These are extinction events in a shell. Use them wisely." Wu Jin looked at the missiles, each one painted black and marked with a simple symbol, a child's handprint. "I will use them exactly as intended," he said. The Black Fleet assembled in the shadow of Jupiter. 1,200 warships, painted in the darkest black, with no lights, no markings, no symbols except for names. Each ship bore the name of a child killed at Nova Sera. The flagship was the largest battleship ever built by human hands. It was called Hana's Light, named after the teacher who had tried to save her students with her own body. Pilot Kyung-soo stood on the observation deck of his carrier, watching the fleet gather. He was only 26 years old. 2 months ago, he had been teaching at a flight academy, showing young cadets how to fly patrol ships. Then he received news that his nephew, 7 years old, had died at Nova Sera. Kyung-soo left the academy that day. He joined the fleet the next morning. He had not smiled since. "Big fleet," said a voice beside him. He turned. A young woman in a marine uniform stood there. She was thin, almost fragile-looking, but her eyes were hard as steel. She was Bora, the girl from the prison. She had refused counseling. She had refused to go home. She had demanded to join the military. They had made her a sergeant, youngest in history. "Not big enough," Kyung-soo replied, "but it will do." The Valars sent diplomats 3 days before the fleet was scheduled to leave. They offered to return the prisoners. They offered money. They offered territory. They offered apologies. Chancellor Minji received them in the council chamber. She listened to their offers in silence. When they finished, she stood. "You offer us the children you stole," she said. "We already took them back. You offer us money. We do not want your money. You offer us territory. We do not want your planets. You offer us apologies." She leaned forward, and the Valar diplomats saw something in her eyes that made their insect hearts freeze. "You cannot apologize to the dead. You cannot return what you have destroyed. You had a choice. You chose to kill our children. Now there is no choice left, only consequence." The diplomats begged, they pleaded, they threatened. Minji simply smiled. "Go home," she said. "Tell your leaders to enjoy their final months. Tell them to look at their queen worlds. Tell them to remember them well, because soon those worlds will be ash, and your species will be nothing but a warning to others." The diplomats fled. The Black Fleet jumped to hyperspace that night. 1,200 ships, 50,000 soldiers, 17 Starhammers. Destination: the first Queen World. The first Queen World was called Velar Prime. It was the oldest world in the Velar Empire, home to the first queens, the birthplace of their entire civilization. 8 billion Velar lived there. Millions of eggs waited to hatch. It was the heart of their species. Admiral Wujin stood on the bridge of Hana's Light, watching the planet on his view screen. It was a beautiful world, green and blue, with clouds swirling over its surface. It looked peaceful. It looked innocent. But Wujin remembered the images from Nova Sera, the burned classrooms, the tiny bodies, the empty shoes. "Fire the Starhammer," he said. The missile launched. It crossed the distance between the fleet and the planet in seconds. The Velar defenses tried to stop it. They failed. The Starhammer punched through their shields like a finger through wet paper. It drilled into the planet's crust. It reached the core. And then Velar Prime died. The explosion was visible from 1,000 light-years away. The planet's surface cracked like an eggshell. Fire erupted from every fissure. The oceans boiled. The atmosphere burned. 8 billion Velar died in less than 1 minute. They did not have time to scream. The Black Fleet watched in silence. No one cheered. No one celebrated. They simply moved on to the next target. The war lasted 11 months. The Velar had never faced an enemy like humanity. They had conquered dozens of species before. Those species had fought with honor, with rules, with limitations. They had accepted surrender. They had taken prisoners. They had shown mercy. Humanity showed none of these things. By the 3rd month, Commander Unji and her Ghost Division had destroyed every Velar military base in the outer systems. Her soldiers moved like shadows, appearing without warning, killing without hesitation, disappearing without trace. The Velar called them demons. They were not wrong. Unji led her troops with cold efficiency. She did not allow torture. She did not allow cruelty. She did not allow her soldiers to enjoy the killing. Death was a task, nothing more. A job to be completed. An equation to be balanced. This frightened the galaxy more than any brutality could have. The aliens who watched from afar expected rage. They expected savagery. They expected humans to become beasts. Instead, they saw humans become machines, emotionless, efficient, unstoppable. And they understood that this was far, far worse. By the 5th month, the Velar gathered their entire fleet for a final stand at the Crimson Nebula. 3,000 warships, the largest fleet in their history, waited for the Black Fleet to arrive. They believed they could still win. They were wrong. Pilot Kyungsu flew his fighter at the front of the human formation. His squadron was called the Children's Vengeance. Every pilot in it had lost someone at Nova Sera. Every pilot flew with the same cold fire burning in their chest. The battle lasted 12 hours. The Velar fought with desperation. They knew this was their last chance. They threw everything they had at the human fleet. Missiles, lasers, kamikaze attacks. Nothing worked. Kyungsu led his squadron through the heart of the enemy formation. His fighter was hit 7 times. His shields failed. His engines burned. But he kept flying, kept fighting, kept killing. He destroyed 23 enemy ships himself. His squadron destroyed 200 more. When the battle ended, the Velar fleet was scattered. 1,000 ships destroyed, another 1,000 fleeing. The path to the remaining Queen Worlds was open. By the 7th month, only 6 Queen Worlds remained. Sergeant Bora was 17 now. She had grown taller, stronger, harder. The empty look in her eyes had been replaced by something else. Purpose. Cold, deadly purpose. Her unit captured the Velar commander who had ordered the attack on Nova Sera. His name was impossible for humans to pronounce, so they simply called him the Butcher. He had personally selected Nova Sera as a target. He had personally ordered the attack on the education complex. He had personally watched the children die on his view screen, and laughed. The soldiers wanted to kill him, slowly, painfully. They had earned that right. They had fought for it. They had bled for it. Bora stopped them. "No," she said. "He does not deserve a quick death. He does not deserve a slow death. He deserves something worse." She looked at the Butcher with eyes that held no hatred, no anger, no emotion at all. He will live. He will be imprisoned. He will watch his species die. He will know that every queen who burns, every world that falls, every Valar who perishes, happens because of what he did. He will carry that weight for the rest of his life. And when he is the last Valar alive, when he is old and alone and forgotten, he will die knowing that his entire civilization ended because he chose to kill children. The Butcher's compound eyes widened with fear. He understood. A quick death was mercy. This was not mercy. This was human justice. By the 9th month, only 3 queen worlds remained. The Valar government sent message after message begging for terms. They offered everything: total surrender, all territory, all resources, slavery for their entire species, anything to stop the extinction. He responded to none of them. "There are no terms," he finally said to his officers. "There is only consequence." The remaining queen worlds fell one by one. The 14th, the 15th, the 16th. Each one died the same way. A starhammer, a flash of light, silence. The 17th and final queen world was the smallest. Only 2 billion Valar lived there. But it held the last queens, the last hope, the last future of the Valar species. Wujin stood on the bridge of Hana's light for the final time. His face was tired. His eyes were old. He had killed more beings than any human in history. He would carry that weight forever. "Fire," he said. The last starhammer launched. The last queen world burned. The last queens died. The Valar species was functionally extinct. Those who remained would age and die without children. Within 2 generations, there would be no Valar left. A civilization that had lasted millions of years ended in 11 months. Wujin watched the final world burn. Around him, his crew stood in silence. No cheering, no celebration, just silence and the weight of what they had done. "For the children," Wujin whispered. And somewhere across the galaxy, in the ruins of Nova Sera, a memorial stood with the names of 1,847 children carved in stone. The names would remain there forever. A reminder of innocence lost, a reminder of love betrayed, a reminder of why humanity had become the most feared species in the universe. Not because they were cruel, but because they protected their young, no matter the cost. 10 years passed. The galaxy was different now. Quieter, more careful. The great powers of the universe had watched humanity burn an entire species out of existence. And they had learned a lesson that would last for 1,000 generations. Do not touch human children. The Galactic Assembly still met in its great chamber on the neutral world of Prime Station. 100 species sent representatives. They debated, they argued, they made laws and treaties and agreements. But now, whenever the human ambassador entered the room, the other species fell silent. They moved aside. They lowered their eyes. Not out of respect. Out of fear. Ambassador Nari had retired 5 years after the war. She was old now, her hair white, her steps slow. But she returned to the assembly one final time to present something important. The Monument of Names. It was a holographic display, simple in design. Just a list of names, floating in light. 1,847 names. The children of Nova Sera. The reason for everything. We did not start this war, Nari said to the silent assembly. We ended it. Remember that. Remember why. Remember the cost. She looked at the alien faces around her. Some showed anger. Some showed fear. Some showed something that might have been understanding. We do not apologize for what we did. We do not regret it. We would do it again, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. Because these names represent the most sacred thing in our species. Our children, our future, our hope. She paused. Any species that forgets this lesson will become the next warning. She walked out. No one tried to stop her. Elder Jiwon was a historian. She had spent 10 years documenting the war, interviewing survivors, recording testimonies. Her book was called The Children's War, and it became the most read work in human history. She interviewed everyone she could find. Admiral Woojin lived in a small house on Earth now. He had a garden where he grew vegetables. He refused to talk about the war. When Jiwon asked him about the 17 worlds he had destroyed, he simply looked at his tomato plants and said, I did what was necessary. I carry the weight. That is all. But when Jiwon asked him if he regretted it, his eyes hardened. Do you have children? He asked. 2, Jiwon replied. A boy and a girl. Would you destroy 17 worlds to protect them? Jiwon did not answer. She did not need to. They both knew the truth. Commander Unji ran an orphanage on Nova Sera now. The colony had been rebuilt, larger and stronger than before. Children played in new gardens, under a repaired sky. Unji watched over them like a guardian spirit, fierce and gentle at the same time. I killed thousands, she told Jiwon. Maybe millions. I do not know the exact number. I stopped counting. Does it haunt you? Unji watched a little girl chase a butterfly across the grass. Every night, she admitted. I dream of the ones I killed. I hear their screams. I see their faces. Then why did you do it? Unji smiled sadly. Because of the ones I saved. Because of the ones who will never be hurt because of what we did. Because the galaxy knows now that human children are protected by monsters, willing to become monsters for them. Dr. Yuna still worked at the medical center. Her hands were older now, shakier, but still steady enough to heal. She had trained dozens of young doctors. She had delivered hundreds of new babies. Life continued on Nova Sera, despite everything. We heal, she told Jiwon. That is what humans do. We break, and we bleed, and we cry. But then we heal. We move forward. We build new things. We create new life. The Velar thought they could destroy us by hurting our children. They were wrong. They only made us stronger. Hana was still teaching. She was older now, with gray in her hair and lines on her face. But her smile was the same. Her love was the same. Her students still called her Teacher Hana, and she still called each of them her little stars. I remember every child I lost, she said softly, every face, every name, every laugh. They visit me in my dreams sometimes, not as ghosts, as memories, as reminders of why we must protect the innocent. She wiped a tear from her eye. I do not hate the Velar. I cannot hate an extinct species. I only feel sorry for them. They did not understand what they were doing. They thought they were attacking weakness. They were attacking the strongest force in the universe. What force is that? Jiwon asked. A mother's love, a father's protection, a teacher's devotion, the bond between humans and their children. It is stronger than any weapon, more powerful than any fleet, more enduring than any empire. Sergeant Bora was 26 now. She served as humanity's military attaché to the Galactic Assembly. Other diplomats avoided her. They had heard the stories. They knew what she had survived. They knew what she had done. She did not mind the fear. It was useful. It reminded everyone of the lesson. The butcher had died 2 years ago. Old age. He had spent his final years in a cell, watching holographic reports of the last Velar dying one by one. True extinction was slow. It took decades. He had lived just long enough to see his species become memories and dust. Bora had visited him once, near the end. She had stood outside his cell and watched him weep. "Do you understand now?" she asked. The butcher looked at her with ancient, broken eyes. "You are monsters," he whispered. "All of you, monsters." Bora shook her head. "No. We are parents. We are teachers. We are protectors. We are humans. And you made the mistake of hurting our children." She walked away and never returned. Young Taman was 8 years old. He had been born after the war, in a galaxy that had already learned its lesson. He knew nothing of battle, nothing of extinction, nothing of the weight his elders carried. One day he asked his grandmother a question. "Why are the aliens scared of us?" Chancellor Minji was very old now. She had retired long ago, but she still lived in the same house, still drank the same tea, still watched the same stars. She knelt down to meet Taman's eyes. "Because we taught them something important, little one. We taught them that human children are not to be touched, ever." "What happens if someone touches them?" Minji smiled. It was a gentle smile, but there was something ancient and dangerous behind it. "Then we make sure it never happens again. No matter what it takes, no matter how long, no matter the cost." Taman thought about this for a moment. "That sounds scary." "It is," Minji agreed. "That is the point." 100 years later, a new alien species make first contact with humanity. They were young, curious, and nervous. They had heard stories. Everyone had heard stories. Their diplomats asked one question. "Is it true, what you did to the Velar?" The human ambassador was a woman named Sujin. She was young and kind, with a warm smile and gentle eyes. She looked nothing like a monster. "We are a peaceful people," she said. "We build cities, and write songs, and tell stories. We dream of a future where all species live together in harmony." The alien diplomats relaxed slightly. Then Sujin leaned forward. "But yes, the stories are true. Every one of them. The Valar harmed our children. They do not exist anymore. Their worlds are ash. Their species is a memory. Their fate is a lesson taught to every child in this galaxy." The aliens stiffened. "We do not want war," Sujin continued. "We do not seek conflict. We welcome friendship and trade and cooperation. But understand this, our children are protected, always, forever, by every human who has ever lived or ever will live. Harm them, and your entire species will become a cautionary tale whispered in the dark corners of the universe for eternity." She smiled again, warm, gentle. "Do we understand each other?" The aliens understood. They always understood now. And somewhere in the rebuilt gardens of Nova Serra, children played under an orange sky, safe and happy and free. They did not know about the war. They did not know about the sacrifice. They did not know about the 17 burning worlds and the 90 billion dead. They only knew that they were loved. And in the end, that was enough. That was everything.